Welcome in, everyone. Glad to have everyone back. Glad to do a little more informational today about Delta Force and things of that nature. But before we do, I need everyone to like, subscribe, and comment in the video below. It really helps get the show out there. It really helps share the stories. The goal of this podcast, the goal of what we're doing here is to share as many stories of American heroes who are our allies. And the best way to make sure that happens is if you like, subscribe, comment with your thoughts. It pushes it to the top. We just had a Delta Force video about the cartels do exceedingly well, and you guys were the main reason why, because you were liking, subscribing, in the comments, sharing it. I can't thank you enough. Today's topic is one that's a little bit controversial, a little bit sensitive, a little bit something that the public has no idea about, and that is women in the world of special operations, specifically women in Delta Force. Now, this is, to be put it kindly, something that triggers a lot of people. People get very triggered when you say there's female in the world of special operations. There's females at the unit. There's females that work in Task Force Orange. There's a certain sect of people that seem to think that there's zero women in any roles whatsoever in special operations. And I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, that is not true, because I know some who are. I know some who've been there, who've done it. And furthermore, former Delta Force members have gone on the record admitting that women are in Delta Force. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm going to play a clip right now from my interview with Bob Poris, where he talks about a female, quote, shooter that was on the ground with them in the 90s when Europe was burning. So again, this isn't my opinion. This is from a man who served in the unit for a very long time, talking about this specific individual. Let's play that clip right now.
A very dynamic environment that we were in out there, because I'd be in civilian clothes, in the front seat of these cars, and then we get to a place and get my uniform back on and jump in the assault positions and wherever the team was at. So it's kind of neat, and we did that from mid to late 90s.
I got to ask, because it's so rare you see it in a photo like that. And I know her face is blacked out, and I would never ask you to give someone's name. But I think a lot of people would be surprised by that photo because there's a woman in it. And maybe they think, why is there a woman with these commandos? What's the explanation for why you have a woman in a situation? Was she an American? Things of that nature?
Yeah, she's our teammate. Yeah, and she had language capability out there too.
Gotcha.
So to benefit us, so in our clandestine side, right, when we're working that way, you're least likely to suspect a couple, or if it's a woman more than a man, right, to be a bad actor or somebody that doesn't belong, right? So we adopted that back then in those days. So we had women assaulters. They were a part of another group that I don't want to say was in support of the squadrons, but there obviously wasn't a lot of them. So the core of the women that were doing that would go to whatever squadron was deploying, right? So they work with everybody. And this one happened to have the language out there, Serbo-Croatian. And so she was talking to the checkpoints and the folks at the checkpoints and all that stuff. So yeah, that's helped out. She's a shooter just like the rest of us.
That's incredible. Hey, good for her. And I see some people who get so confused, or maybe it's just, I don't have a good word for it, but I've seen debates about that before. I've heard other guys discuss it, and it's like some guys can't wrap their head around that. And it's like, do you not think there's some badass women out there? I guarantee you that there absolutely is.
Absolutely. And there you go. There's one, right?
There you go. And that photo, if you haven't seen it, you can find it on Bob's Instagram. It is such a casually badass photo. I mean, the whole thing is awesome. And like you said, your former teammate who was killed in 2005. I actually interviewed one of the guys that survived. He was seriously injured, but survived that explosion that they hit. I do want to talk now.
So there you go. That's a clip of Bob Poris, former Delta Force member, served in the 90s. I believe he got out shortly before 9/11. He is right there talking about how There are absolutely women in Delta Force. We've discussed this before. We've talked about the roles that they can that they fulfill in the organization. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on what they do. I'm absolutely not an expert on what women in Delta Force do. I think anyone who's not in Delta Force who claims to be an expert on anything Delta Force does is, quite frankly, probably lying to you would be the nice way to put it, and is full of complete garbage otherwise. But now that we've cleared that up, yes, there are women in special operations. Yes, there are women in Delta Force. They do a whole variety of things. Are they going through OTC like the assault squadron guys are? No, they go through a very specialized training of their own. There's only a handful of them, but that is the truth. That is the fact of the matter. The point of this video is, will one of these women ever go public? Right now, I only know of one woman whose name has ever been floated online as being a female member of the unit. That person has never publicly confirmed it. They've also never denied it, for the record. And it's important. I'm not going to say this person's name. If they wanted their military history out there, if they wanted to confirm that they were in Delta as a female in whatever role they serve, that's up to them. But because they have not confirmed it, I am not going to say it. I'm just saying there's only one known case of a female Delta Force operator's name ever hitting the web. It's not overly difficult to find. Here's the thing. We've had a lot of guys come forward. We've had a lot of guys that were assaulters. There's been dudes from G Squadron. There have been dudes that were snipers and, that had glorious careers doing a variety of different things, whether it was high vis, low vis, direct action, whatever it might be. We have never had a female member of Delta Force ever go on the record and give an interview about their experiences. And to be quite honest with you, my prediction is they will not do it for a very long time. I believe that we are probably years away from seeing a female member of Delta Force ever give an on-the-record interview. And I think the reason for that is the roles they fill in the organization are sensitive enough to the point great precautions are taken to make sure that the public, and more importantly, our enemies, do not have any idea what is going on. And I can actually talk to you about this a little bit because a guy who I know that was at JTF2, Joint Task Force 2, which is Canada's version of Delta Force, told me he worked with some women from Delta Force that were highly impressive. He thought they were excellent at their job, but due to the nature of their job, the low-vis nature of their job, there's really nothing they can talk about without giving away the entire farm. For example, if you're a shooter, right? You're a Delta Force assaulter. You can tell any story you want for the most part about being in a stack, CQB, taking out terrorists, because that's what people expect. Fully kitted up, night vision. They're blasting AKs at you. You're firing back. They're calling in helicopters, all that fun stuff. If your job is in a more low visibility role, recon role, intel role, or whatever it might be, giving an interview about what you do, it's going to be very hard to do that and protect the tactics and protocols and procedures that you are going through. Or what is it? Tactics, techniques, whatever it is, TTPs. What you're going through. It's going to be very difficult for them to explain how they were a female member of Delta Force in the same way a guy can, because they're doing different jobs. They're not jumping in a compound in a stack of 12 dudes or whatever it might be and shooting it out with the worst people on planet. What the women in Delta Force do, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's incredibly impressive. I'm sure it's incredibly difficult, but it's a different job. That job requires a certain level of secrecy. A lot of what they do is classified. You're never going to hear about it in the public. And until some of those stories start coming out, I don't think you're going to see a female Delta operator, whatever, member. I know people get so triggered when you say operator. A female Delta Force member going public until we're several years removed from the GWAT. And even right now in Syria, they're in Syria right now. There are Delta Force teams in Syria that have women with them. This has been publicly reported. I'm not sharing anything that you can't find out there. This has been reported by reputable news outlets, by reputable journalists online. So the fact of the matter is, the answer, my guess, is no. I've tried to get the one who's public on my podcast. She was very polite, very cordial, and made it very clear that that was never going to happen. I talked to another woman who knew some other women that had been at the unit. That person themselves had not been. They put out feelers, got back the same answer, that was never going to happen. So for now, my guess is you will not see female Delta Force members doing media rounds, doing podcasts, anything like that for at least a couple of years. Eventually, do I think it'll happen? Yeah, eventually I think it'll happen, but that time's not overly soon. So sit down, buckle up, enjoy the show as it is. Enjoy hearing from all the dudes that were over there kicking indoors, shooting bad guys in the face. We love that. I want to get a female Delta Force operator on the podcast incredibly, incredibly badly. But as of right now, my prediction is no, you will not see a female Delta Force member go public and tell their story for a long time. It could be a couple of years. It could be 10 or 20 years because remember, Delta's been around for decades and we still don't have one of these women on the record. So that should kind of tell you all you need to know. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, it means you like talking about the military, you like talking about special operations, you like talking about Delta Force. There's no channel on YouTube that does the mix of what I do when it comes to explainer videos, interviews, whatever it might be. So if you made it this far, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the video, and please comment with your thoughts below. Do you think a woman from Delta Force will ever go public? Comment, let me know your prediction. I read them all, I try to respond to them, and I'll catch you all next time.